The legend takes place in 1911 in Italy and tells the story of a train consisting of the locomotive and 3 luxurious wagons, which would take passengers from the capital of Italy to Milan. Passing through Lazio, Umbria, Tuscany, Emilia-Romagna, and Lombardy. It should be noted that the train had to go through a tunnel about 1 kilometer long, which, at the time, was considered the longest tunnel ever dug in a mountain. On the Zanetti train were 100 passengers from the upper class, accompanied with 6 crew members including the train driver. Everything was going well and the journey was proving more than satisfactory, and within a few hours the train arrived at the 1 kilometer long tunnel. Once it entered in the complete darkness of the tunnel and inside the mountain, it never got out of the other side. There was a small crowd of train enthusiasts on the other side of the tunnel waiting to see the famous luxury train. Hours passed and the train never came out. Upon calling the police on the spot, those present entered the tunnel for inspection, thinking of some kind of a breakdown. But in the darkness of the tunnel, they found nothing but 2 passengers in the state of shock. There was no trace of the train, and there were no signs of any accident. The staff of the railway company also inspected the section of the rails without any results. After 2 days, one of the 2 found passengers finally spoke about what they experienced in that tunnel. I heard a strange hum shortly before the entrance of the tunnel. Inside, a strange white fog had risen that seemed to wind around the train that was latterly swallowed up inside. It was a horrible experience despite being able to save myself along with another passenger by jumping from one of the few railway carriages just before the locomotive entered the tunnel. We both crashed on the hard ground, and this is the last thing I remembered of what happened. The other survivor remained silent about the incident. Out of fear of other accidents, that section of the railway was closed and the Zanetti Railway Company employed many resources to cover up the incident. The tunnel was collapsed from bombardment during the Second World War, preventing any further investigations of it. Decades passed since the Zanetti train incident, when a Ukrainian newspaper, Gloria di Setastopol, published an article in 1992. Witnesses reported sightings of a train with 3 carriages with the curtains tightly closed, the doors open, and an empty cockpit, moved absolutely silently through grass fields, and then vanishing in the darkness of the night. It seemed that, from time to time, a train appeared for a few moments near the village of Zavalichi in Poltava, Ukraine. It looked like the infamous Zanetti ghost train was somehow able to travel not only in space, but also in time. It was the chairman of the Commission for the Study of Anomalous Phenomena at the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences, Vasily Lyschati, who proposed that the idea that the ghost train was the infamous Zanetti. Lyschati has been studying these apparitions of the ghost train for some time now, and he and other investigators found a document from the 1840s with the testimony of a psychiatrist from Mexico City who had 104 people enlisted in the psychiatric hospital of the Mexican capital. They behaved in a weird and confused way. After some time, it was determined that they were neither Mexicans nor Spanish, but in fact, Italians. They claimed to have arrived in Mexico City by train, a train that left from Rome. There were those who adapted to their new life in Mexico, and those that went completely insane and spent the rest of their years in the psychiatric hospital. However, no reports of the infamous train were made during that time in Mexico, as if the Zanetti train passed through unnoticed in that place and time to get its passengers off, and then continued wandering alone in time and space. Lyschati was so obsessed with the ghost train that after some deep investigation, he managed to predict the train's next appearance. He managed to ambush it and get on the train in front of several witnesses. Since that event, he was never seen again. Other investigators found another testimony document from 1955 by a signalman at a railway crossing near the Russian border. I rubbed my eyes. I thought it looked like a steam locomotive and 3 passenger caravans. It was traveling without lights from the side of Mount Gasfort along the trajectory of the no longer there railway. I realized that the locomotive and caravans were not one of ours, and the train seemed pre-war, or perhaps even older. It was moving through the grass heading towards the woods. I even ran to the spot it just passed through. No crushed bushes or grass, no run-down trees, pure ghost. If you liked the video so far, please consider hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. The Zanetti train was also sighted in Moscow in 1975, 1981, and 1986, near Chernobyl, shortly after the incident at the nuclear power plant, and it was also spotted in Norway and in the Balkans in 1986, as well as in other places and times. Further investigations revealed that on the day of the train vanishing in the tunnel, there was a rosewood case on board containing the skull of a well-known Ukrainian writer. The skull was stolen from a Moscow museum in 1909 by a merchant, Alexei Bakrushin. The theft of the skull caused a ruckus in the press, and upon hearing about it, the great-grandson of the writer, Lieutenant Yanovsky, became involved as well. Yanovsky managed to track down Alexei and confronted him at gunpoint, asking for the skull to be handed to him. He made several attempts to return the skull to the Russian museum. One was in 1910, in Sicily, where an anniversary remembrance of the 1908 Messina earthquake was held. It was the same location where the train was sighted, but in a different time. Actually, it was sighted many years in the past when trains were not even invented. Yanovsky was supposed to board a ship going from Sicily to a harbor near Mount Gasfort, where the signalman sighted the train 45 years later, but due to various reasons, Yanovsky failed to make the trip. Later, he handed the rosewood case containing the skull to Commander Borghese, who swore to deliver it to the Russian consul in Italy. But the promise was never kept. In 1911, Borghese had to leave on a long mission, and the famous rosewood case with the skull inside fell in the hands of his younger brother, who thought it was fun to take it with him on a train trip to which he had been invited. The same train that left the station in Rome and vanished in the 1-kilometer-long tunnel. His plan was to scare the passengers at the right moment by showing the contents of the rosewood case and make it a little attraction during the trip. Upon following the traces of the skull before the train incident, investigators made the connection that the Zanetti ghost train has appeared in several locations where the skull has been. What is even more bizarre is that one of the 2 people who jumped off the train and the one who told the story of the fog on the train was the one who bought the skull on board. Now, the skull on board of the Zanetti train is forever traveling through time and space. The story of the Zanetti train has been considered a fiction due to the fact that no traces of the Zanetti Railway Company have ever been found. Same goes for the names of the people in the story. Except for one, the identity of the skull. It is said to belong to the writer Nikolai Gogol, who died in 1852 and was buried at the Danilov Monastery in Moscow. His death is surrounded in bizarre circumstances, as he intentionally starved himself, saying that he is trying to get the devil out of himself. In 1931, authorities, upon transferring Gogol's remains to a new grave, noticed that his body was lying face down, which gave the rise of conspiracy theories that he was buried alive. It was not confirmed if his skull was missing. True story or not, it is still an interesting and scary legend, worthy of being told.